So I had to do this like the day before and set it all up and get all of the things put in there. But once I did, now it does it pretty simple.
I guess I'm gonna have to get a laptop when
It helps.
I might have one,
We're gonna have
but
to
it might
mute
be
this
too
thing as
old.
well because this is about a 5-second delay on the YouTube.
Oh, is that one reason why you don't do the question and answer stuff?
I think it would be hard, yeah. Plus, like I said, I do. There you go. See?
Yeah.
And we're back.
I guess I keep rolling away. The garage, the floor is a little tilted.
I'm gonna type in my YouTube channel. Jacob Cox, Nostradamus Jacob Cox. It might even be 26. It's either Jacob Cox or Jacob Cox 26. I'm not 100% sure. I typed it in there for you guys. But that is my YouTube channel as well. If you want to subscribe to that, I would be eternally grateful for every single one of you for doing that. It helps out a little bit. So thank you guys for joining us. We got 4 people on. I think we lost somebody. Steven's still on, Nicole, Chris. I think we lost Roger. But that's all right. And if you guys are joining us right now on YouTube Live, thanks for joining us. Our topic tonight is awakening. We'll get that started in just a minute, probably by about another minute or two, and we'll get going. Yeah, that thing is really putting on some heat for us tonight.
Yeah, it works good.
I may even have to take my shirt off here.
Might get that one of those things for my garage when I work out.
Yeah, I got my stuff over there. I intend to do it, but I don't ever do it.
Oh, I've got a total jam of Bowflex and elliptical.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now that I got this, I definitely could see myself in here trying to do it.
Yeah. My garage is a bit bigger.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I get for you.
It's a 2.5. You could really get 3 cars in it, but it's a 2-car entrance.
Yeah. So you want to leave these questions up so that we can look at them? You can see that
Yeah,
well?
that's fine with me.
Okay.
You can see better. These are shitty glasses, so
Oh,
they're old. I sat on my good ones.
I mean, I won't hit them all, obviously, but
Yeah.
if there's some good ones that come up, we definitely will. But you guys are more than welcome to comment and ask questions, and we will try to hit the ones as we go. If you're with us on YouTube Live, I don't think I can see your questions. You're welcome to post them on there, though, and I'll try to get back to you either tonight after or tomorrow or after that if I can.
Yeah, and if you got questions for me, Jacob will pass them on to me.
I will certainly pass them on to John Thunderheart.
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, I think we should just go ahead and do it.
Well,
8:06, right?
Yeah.
Here we go. All right. Hi, and welcome to another edition of Mystery School. I'm your host, Jacob Cox, and our topic tonight is awakening. I have a very special guest, a great friend of mine, John Thunderheart. I'm very grateful for him to be here. John's an incredible guy, an incredible musician, someone I really look up to, and someone I really wanted to do a mystery school with for a long time. So finally get the chance to do it here, and I'm glad you're here, John. You want to introduce yourself a little bit more?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm John Thunderheart. A lot of people ask me where I got that name from. You know, am I Native American? All these different questions about it. And the Thunderheart came at 3 separate times. I was leading a meditation one night, and after the meditation, a person came up and kept saying, I don't know why I want to call you Thunderheart. 3 months later, I was doing another one, different group of people. And a gentleman came up afterwards and said, I want to call you Thunderheart. And, you know, in my mind, I was just shrugging it off. Yeah, okay, you know.
Right.
And then I was at a sweat lodge up in British Columbia, and it was also a naming lodge. And the native peoples who were, you know, trying to get us in that state to either make a name for yourself that resonates or to be given a name. And if you couldn't think of one that resonated, they would look at you and would give you a name within the sweat lodge.
Right.
And I'm sitting there trying to literally think of one. And I've had these 2 experiences already about people calling me Thunderheart.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of pushing it aside. And then literally a spirit appeared for me, you know, native person, or Third Nation, if you want to call it, what was it? You know what I mean? What do they call them again? First Nations. First
Nations people or native.
Yeah. Spirit literally came, told me, said, what is wrong with you? You are Thunderheart. That is the name you are to go by. And I then adopted that name with what I do. And my first clients actually drove in from reservation in New Mexico. No, said they were told to come to me from their guidance,
Mm.
and I never even advertised.
Right.
And they drove out and, you know, want to come. I told them, I said, I am not Native American.
Yeah.
I didn't choose that name. The name was given to me. And, so, uh, a lot of people call me a shaman. I don't claim to be a shaman. I do shamanic work, but I am not a shaman.
Right.
Not in this lifetime. In other lifetimes, I was.
Mm.
I do believe in reincarnation. I do believe in that. And I think that is also what can lead into our topic tonight.
So yeah, awakening, right? It's a good
Yeah.
one. I think probably one of the best things to do is really define it. As hard as that sounds, but I feel like that's where we need to start is what does it mean when we say awakening? What does it mean to be awake? What does it mean to awaken?
And exactly. And I had already pulled it up, the different definitions. The simple one is arousing from sleep.
Mm.
But there's also, sometimes we feel like we're walking in a dream.
Feel that.
But it's a lot of times it doesn't feel like a reality. But when something triggers us to see things differently, right, from the way you always have, that's actually an awakening.
Mm.
You're awakening another aspect of your consciousness at that point. Things shift. Sometimes when we have a conversation with somebody and it becomes an aha moment to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way you were is now different. You awaken to a new mental or spiritual reality in that moment, and that's a type of an awakening. And it's a progression.
Mm-hmm.
All experiences we have creates an awakening. It isn't just like poof, all of a sudden, but it can be.
Yes.
When the dynamics are right.
Yeah, and I like the word awakening, and I feel like kind of the technical part that gets me going on it is that you do have this inner eye, this third eye, the single eye, your pineal gland, whatever you're going to call it, and that gland is really calcified from the fluoride and probably lots of sugars and inhibitors. That could be anything that's chemicals in the food and our air and our water and all that stuff, and so we become really calcified. I do think that's probably could be even the mark of the beast, where if your third eye is shut out, anybody who is a person who is really awake and could see auras and can see things would probably be able to tell right away in your forehead area that light is out in you, that it's gone out. And it tends to be a process where, as you're a young kid, it seems to be you're pretty awake. Christ says if you want to enter the kingdom of heaven, be like little kids, and they're very present and they're very here and now. And then about the age 13 is when the pineal gland goes out. It really becomes calcified. And what happens then? We start to wear dark clothes. We start to rebel. We have a hard time with life typically sometimes. And kind of is that your inner world now has become the outer world becomes the inner world. So you start to dress a certain way and change. And then there's this process, I think, for most people around 40 years old, after you wandered around for 40 years, you start to wake up again, right? And you start to, and I think a lot of us are, people being born now really awake, and people are waking up much earlier. But I believe it's that process of that decalcifying that pineal gland, that it's your eye, because it has, rods and cones in it. That's why you can close your eyes and think of a red fire truck, and you can see that red fire truck in your mind's eye. And so as we able to waken that up and make it more, juicy and, got to squeegee that thing out sometimes, it allows that eye to open up and to see into reality and situations, circumstances, and events that we're kind of blinded to before. We're, like you said, walking around to sleep and we don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And but you're talking about that around the age of 13. What is that around the age of? That's around the age of puberty.
Yeah.
Right. But puberty back in the ancient times was when you became basically a man and a woman. You were able to procreate, right? The lifespans were much shorter. Now, in order to separate from your family, you had to rebel. Okay. So sometimes the shutting down of the pineal gland at that point, that consciousness where you're connected to everything, is so that you can separate and start your life separated from the family, where you're relying on them. And then it starts to reactivate slowly again. That's just when you're talking, that's what's coming through in my head.
Yeah. I feel like that's what happens. You wander around the desert for a while looking for the promised land, and all of a sudden you start to wake up and you're like, oh, and I feel like when everybody talks, when people that I know, my friends, we're all talking about that land that's calling to us all. I feel like it's the promised land. We're people who are waking up, and people who are waking up are being called to land, to live together, to harmonize together, and to live in a world that really works for everyone.
And the second part of the definition is arousing from inactivity, or indifference.
Mm.
Right. And, when we become apathetic and stuff like that, we're becoming indifferent to all the stuff. Oh,
Right.
There's nothing I can do about it. But there is. It doesn't always mean it's about the change from the outside. It's about the changing of the inside and how you interact with each other.
Sure. Yeah.
When we start treating ourselves better, putting ourselves first, not being in a selfish manner where I want this because I want it. It's putting yourself first, meaning that you're taking care of your body, you're taking care of your mind, you're taking care of your relationships.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And not always pointing fingers outwards when there's something in an issue. Start from within. How did I trigger this in myself first? Then how did I become the trigger for the other person? And it's another word for awakening is becoming conscious. The third one here is a revival of interest, in something. Right.
Could that be a renaissance then?
Well,
of enough people waking up, then
well, it would be, yeah. And then the third one is a coming into awareness, the discovery, like, they use an example, like his discovery of literature, the discovery of something different, instead of just following the same old course. This is what we're taught in school. And I mean, I'm watching, all the arguments about what's being taught in our education system today. Right. And to me, if you want to talk about awakening, it's an unawakening. It's a suppression. It's not to ask questions. It's to follow this. And it to a degree, it's been always that way. Right. But you have those special teachers sometimes out there that bring something in. One of my awakenings was when I was in 7th or 8th grade, and I went to Catholic school for 12 years. Everybody goes, oh, poor you. I didn't have such a bad experience. I did see some really horrible things go on, but I also saw some amazing things.
That's good to hear. Yeah.
I'm sorry. A lot of times I think a lot of it got a really bad rap for people who were at I'll say the shit end of the stick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it wasn't all that way. But the thing is that I had a teacher, it was a nun, and we were in a comparative religions class. And they said, okay, everybody in here has to pick a different religion. And I chose Buddhism.
They okay with that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. People had, they chose Muslim. Some of them pagan, witchcraft, or, you know what I mean? That type. And it was absolutely, everybody gave a presentation. It wasn't a 5-10 minute presentation. You had 40 minutes.
Oh, wow.
It was in depth. You had to do research. It was no little, blah, 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 and there you go. And those who got that didn't get much of a grade.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they were serious. They wanted you to learn.
That's interesting. I never heard anything like that, them opening the doors up to learning about other things.
Yeah.
As far as anybody I've ever talked to. So that's.
Well, yeah. Well, that was one of the things. When I was doing all the research on Buddhism, I really liked it. But I was also, in many ways, happy with, being a Catholic at the same time. And I didn't see any conflict in it. A lot of people will see conflict in that. It's because they close their minds and saying that this is the only way you can be. And I never really felt that way. I used to argue with the nuns in religion class, and I never had to study. I knew it. I knew it. Every test I took, I basically got an A in it. And I never studied a darn thing. I knew it. I argued with them when they were going off principles. And well, many years later, after doing some, meditation and regressive hypnosis, it turned out that in many lifetimes I was a Catholic priest, monk, I was lives as like a Shaolin monk. I'll use that warrior monk. I use the term because I don't know if it was Shaolin or not, but I was religious. I was always most of my lifetimes were of a spiritual nature. But I was also a warrior in a lot of them too.
Yeah.
And, together as that. So I had a different, unique look at things. And I would, argue all the time that the Pope is not infallible. I mean, 8, 9 years old. And I'm saying, no, the Pope's not infallible. He's a human being. He may be an emissary of God, but he is not God. He is not infallible. And that, I mean, I took a lot of crap from that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still feel that way, but I can also still feel very comfortable going into the church and kneeling and having the incense when it's a high mass. They don't do it in regular masses, really. But I mean, I haven't gone in quite a few years, but when my heart says, come home for a little while, you know, get some comfort, because that's what you tend to do. You go to something that brought you comfort when you were growing up.
Sure. Yeah.
And so sometimes I would go and I would just be, and I would find some peace, you know.
And that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah. And then I could ask my questions of myself, because I wasn't beating myself up at that point, because I felt more at peace. And then the questions were more honest, not pointing fingers. Why did you do this? Like we were talking before the show started, you know, that you were kind of mad at God, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And stuff like that. And, you know, it's okay. Part of the awakening realizes that that divine force of the universe lets us be, right? Gives us the opportunity to feel, to express, to experience. And that's why we're here.
Sure.
We're not here to be safe.
Yeah.
We're not here to, you know, make, you know, $150,000 a year and, you know, tiptoe on everything so you don't lose that $150,000 a year job. You know, when you're done in that position, the universe will get you out of it.
And if you try to hold on to it, it's going to be sledgehammer blows.
Yeah.
That's going to let you know that you're not supposed to be there. So I heard you say earlier, I had this awakening. So it sounds like, you know, you're someone said, I've had many awakenings and I'm awakening. Are you awake?
Let's say I'm stirring. I mean, there's no real definition of when you're fully awake. I think when you become fully awake, you ascend.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, like,
I'm glad you said that, because I feel pretty similar. You know, and I want to throw something in there here in a second, but you know, there is a lot of things that are happening when you look back at your life and say, oh, I really woke up here and I really woke up to this because this event happened to me when I got out of school or when I was in that car accident. And so I feel something. I don't feel like I'm awake. I feel like I am awakening. And I feel like that's where the woke thing, the woke agenda is detrimental to this kind of spiritual thing that I don't think anybody that I know is claiming to know it all by any means. But to me, the woke stuff is, I don't even want to read that.
All right.
To me, it's a psyop. It's somebody using, I don't even name any names. I don't even think I have to name any names, but there's obviously an agenda out there to put certain things into this woke agenda. And it's detrimental to the spiritual awakening people who are, you know, being humble about it. We're trying to talk about it. We're not saying we know it all. But when you have this kind of ideology that I'm woke and I know all the things and I know everything, man, that's really bad for you. Like, that's not humble at all. It's not, you know, you are, you know, and I get it as you learn. When I first started waking up, I really felt like I knew a lot of things. And I was like, man, the universe has given me so much about these certain topics that I want to tell everybody. But sometimes you need some sledgehammer blows to you to be like, hey, man, you don't know it all yet. And now, as long as I've been waking up, I feel like I know this much of an infinite amount of information. And that humbles me a lot. So I feel like the whole woke agenda is very dangerous sometimes to spirituality.
Well, it is. And it's a danger, not just to spirituality. It's a danger to its original intent. Its original intent of being woke was to be aware of the social injustices that are going on. You know, most times it started with the Black community. It was there to show, look at the different things that are going on, you know,
Black Lives Matter,
Black Lives Matter and stuff. And you know, I mean, that's a whole other topic. Unfortunately, the Black Lives Matter thing literally became a scam.
Well, it was set up by George Soros. And
right. But what happened is all the people who they benefited financially, it never went to the people. All the money that was raised didn't go to the people that they were saying it was going to go to.
The people running to a multi-million-dollar
house,
it
was a scam.
Mansion in California.
And, you know, when it comes into the Black Lives Matter, I'm one of those people who say all lives matter. Don't knock it into one category. If you're going to be woke, woke should mean that you are aware of the inequalities that go on in life. But the thing is like some people want to go into socialism because they said, well, then you're going to have an equal distribution of money. But that isn't how it works. The Soviet Union was both socialistic and communistic. Were the people given stuff? Yeah, but they were breadlines all the time. They had very limited food. There was the elite who lived in mansions and stuff. It really became the king and the serfs, right? And, when you have somebody who has a lot of talent is getting the same as the person who has none of that talent and is not doing the same, not contributing, not even close to the same amount. Are they equal? You know what I mean?
This is where we may differ a little bit, yeah.
Spiritually, they can be the same, equal. But if I'm putting in all the work and this person refuses to work and they get all the benefits just sitting on, watching TV and drinking a beer, and this person's working his butt off, is that equal?
Well, I just try to see it from a different point of view.
That's why we're here to talk.
And that's why we're here to talk about it, right? My point of view is so when we talk about someone who is awake, I do think there have been people who were awake. When people ask Buddha, like, who are you? What are you? He said, I'm awake. He used that exact term. And I think he was awake. And I think he probably did fully open that pineal gland. He fully opened the chakras, and they were all working. And I think Jesus and Krishna, and there, definitely a lot of other people, even saints and stuff, I feel like were really, if they weren't awake, they were really, awakening a lot and to their full potential. So, but I would think if Christ was standing here and there was somebody who came, everybody's looking for food, and this guy works his butt off all day, and this guy's been sitting on the street, I don't see him giving any more to that guy than this guy. He's going to probably give him the same amount. And so
that's equality.
Yeah. And
that's because he's not judging what they're doing.
Right. He's just giving somebody because they're hungry.
Right. If you're hungry. And that's the thing is it's what happens is a lot of it, we're polarizing into categories, and that's separating us. When we go talking about the people who are, let's see, the non-binary, if we're going into that thing, all those are terms. I see each person as a human.
Yes.
And it's not,
and there is no
gay, you're straight, you're this, you're that. No, you're a human being. Yeah. I'm gonna do my best to treat you equally. I don't care what you're wearing. I don't care, who you're sleeping with. I don't care.
Yes.
If you are kind to me, I'm kind to you.
If you're not, probably going to be kind regardless.
That's where I was going. I said, but no matter what, I'm going to try to be kind to everybody who comes into my corner.
That's one of the things I do think is a part of a bigger agenda, because for sure there is only one race. That's the human race.
It's the human race.
When we're all dig up,
I want to love you all.
I want to love everybody 100%. So I do 100% subscribe to that. I think, and I don't know the quote exactly, but Krishnamurti once said, when you claim to be a Christian or a Muslim, or that you're being violent, and you don't really realize it, because anything that you're putting out there to say I'm this and I know a bunch of people, if you aren't that, you're dividing yourself. So really, to see humanity as a whole, to see everyone as brothers and sisters, and the more you divide yourself into these small categories, we're divided up. And that is the ultimate goal of some people who are up here, is as long as we fight each other based on anything.
That's exactly what this is all about.
Right.
And that's exactly what this is all about, is to separate all of us. Everybody has something they can contribute to each other.
Yes.
Everybody. You could be mentally challenged. You still have something to contribute. Sometimes those people who are mentally challenged can be the wisest people in all the world, because most times they have to function on what's coming from their heart.
Yes.
And that's generally more the truth.
Yes. And since you said that, I do want to say I do work with special needs kids and adults regularly. And I tell you what, I have seen the beauty in all of them. And in some ways, some of them are so far advanced beyond us, we don't even recognize it. They don't care oftentimes what they're wearing, who they're wearing, what they look like. It's irrelevant. It's put clothes on. I don't even need clothes. I can walk out here naked and I'm not going to care. I'm only going to put these clothes on because you told me to. And there's a freedom to that none of us have.
Right.
To be able to walk around like that and be totally free and not care. And there are things. I work with a kid who has Down syndrome, and this kid, he wants to be the center of attention. He's super funny. He's got the best laugh. And it would be hard to hang out with him if you not to giggle and if you not to laugh.
Right.
And that is laughter is a powerful medicine.
It's one of the best medicines.
It is one of the best medicines.
Yeah,
so
it is.
I do think, even though they may seem different in our society, there are things that they have to contribute, like you said, and there are things that they are more advanced in than oftentimes that we are. And if you can see that, you can see that every human being really is completely invaluable. Like they're priceless. There's no price tag.
Yeah, and I think part of that's when you can see that, like you're recognizing that's one reason why you work with the special needs. That's part of the awakening process for you.
Sure.
But also when you tell your story, you're helping the people who are watching, you're helping me to see from your eyes and what you experience on a daily basis working with this community.
Even learning patience, you know.
Oh yeah.
Just you're helping me learn patience, you know, and I'm trying to help you learn how to put your clothes on and how to get dressed and how to do things. You're helping me learn patience, kindness, acceptance, you know, and that to me is the things that, you know, a lot of us need to work on the most. And that's a great teacher. They're a great teacher in that way. So
yeah,
I'm very thankful for that community. And I do think, so back to socialism real quick, I just want to add this because a lot of people do get kind of a bad rap on socialism. But if you like firefighters, do you like police officers, do you like public schools, all that stuff is all the taxes that we pay that everyone should benefit from equally. Now, they don't always. Capitalism can be the same way. It's all tainted. Martin Luther King said, if we never become a society based on humans and it's only profit-based or thing-based, we're always going to be a sick
I think
society.
It has to be the combination thereof.
It got to be a big combination.
It's got a big combination.
Yeah, it's got to be.
You got to put them all in the blender and put them together. What's the positive attributes?
But what's the number one thing you think that has to? What does it have to be about?
Community.
I would just say people.
Yeah. Well, that's community. That's
100%. Every single person needs to be just as valuable as anybody doing any job, any president, CEO. Everybody, and that's kind of like what your dad says, you know, talk to the janitor the same way you talk to CEO. You know, you speak to them with respect and everything. That's how I was told to speak to people, and it's something I always remembered. And I was like, you know what? I never talk down about anybody. I never talk down about special needs people, nothing, because I see the value in every single person, and if they're here, they're needed.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm just picturing in my mind, if you didn't have a janitor in your schools, you didn't have a janitor in the office complex, would you want to go in there?
No,
I mean, you picture all the dirt and the dust and the papers and leaves or the mud and everything else. It would look disgusting.
Yeah.
That means they actually, the janitor, the lowest of the low, or almost, except for those who clean out the toilets, you know. But those are probably the most important jobs.
But it's like the socialized caste system, right?
It's the bait, you know. I mean, if you're going into taxes, you know, we're going way off on the topics, but still, if you go with taxes, it should be equal. You know, if I'm having to pay 20% of my income or 30% of my income, right down here, they should be at least getting that taken out up there and not having all these incredible tax loopholes where they're not paying anything. And they're not, you know, like they went after Trump, they go off after Elon and everybody else, but they're doing everything legally because they have the loopholes within the thing. And if they're doing it legally,
there are some loopholes I get hold of. I would certainly use them as well.
Yes, exactly.
But I think it's like a socialized caste system where it's like, you know, and
it is a caste system.
It is. And it's like, it's not something that we should be really engaged in, but we are, and we do it just because we've been brainwashed really and programmed to think that way. But someone who works at McDonald's or any other food restaurant, I'm sorry, you can say what you want to about me, but most people eat 3 times a day.
Right.
You know, and that to me is a valuable thing. You got to eat every day. You got to get your hair cut. You got to get your grass cut. And every job is something that makes our world work. And if you don't have, like you said, a janitor, you don't want to go in there. And so
and the place would start falling apart.
You know, every job is important to me.
Well, I mean, Stephen, who was talking earlier, every time we've gone somewhere, he goes, "Thank you for being here." You know, waitress, we're in line for, a cup of coffee at 7-Eleven or something. And he's like, you know, he looks at the name tag, he says their name, and he says, "Thank you for being here. Thank you for serving us. Thank you for making this happen." You know, that type of thing. He's acknowledging everybody. And that's one of the things part of the awakening process is the acknowledgement of the people around us, but also the acknowledgement of ourselves, right? We have to look within ourselves and say, yeah, I've done some really crappy things, but I've also done some good things, right? It's acknowledging who we are, what we've done. I'm rolling away from the thing here. But accepting it that this was part of your experience. We came here to experience life, and not all life is, butterflies and rainbows and unicorns.
Right.
Right. Sometimes it's, cut knees and broken arms and, near-death experiences and all these types of things.
Yeah.
But if you look at them from the perspective of what did I learn from it? What did I gain from this? What insight? Did I learn boundaries? Did I learn to say no? Did I learn that I have a voice and I need to speak it, but not with anger? Usually when it comes out in the beginning, it's with anger because it's like breaking free. I'm going to say it, and this is the way it is. But, even though it might be offensive, and I don't call language violent, a lot of people use that term now. If you look up the definition of violence, it's the act of
physical aggression.
It's a physical aggression. The other thing is not violence. You can write violence and you can speak about violence, but you can't commit violence with your mouth, meaning that you're not actually having physical harm. All right. It could be aggression, oppression. There's other words for what really goes on. But I'm losing my track of mind. I'm going off.
You're good. No. But I hear what you're saying.
But when we're processing all these emotions and words, because all the language is changing. Words that I grew up with have completely different meanings now, and the words that the way I used them growing up were different than what my parents grew up. So our English language is changing. So I'd recommend everybody out there who's watching or who will watch in the future is to find a really old dictionary and look at the difference. There are people who collect dictionaries.
Yeah. And those old Webster.
But find an old one, because I have an old one from when I was in 6th grade that I was using for playing a game, Scrabble. And I had somebody who was, in their 20s playing, and that's not what it means. That's not what it means. They're arguing now, what I mean, when we were having a discussion. And I handed the dictionary, and I was like, well, that's not the same. Pulls out another dictionary. And we're both right. But because my generation was different, like the word gay. Back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and probably most of the 60s, I'm not sure about that. That was about gay meant happy, joyous.
Yes, yeah.
They had a movie from the 1940s or 50s, The Gay Divorcee, meaning he was happy that he was divorced.
Yeah.
Right. But today, when you look at that, I would look at it and go, oh, the guy, is gay, he's homosexual, or whatever. You know what I mean? The words have changed in our dynamics. And that's also where some of our separation and where we're not communicating effectively with the generations is because the terminologies have changed. And, like mine is probably a bit different than yours because I'm like 20 years older than you. Right.
Yeah. And the young kids are saying things that,
right. And I try to keep up as
I
much
would
as
know,
I
or
can.
you wouldn't know.
I try to keep up as much as I can, but since I'm not around that age range anymore, as often, thank God I got a lot of friends in their early 20s, mid 20s and stuff I pick up and, and I learn. But that's also part of the awakening process because what I had a definition of in the past is now changing. It's expanding for me because I still have the memory of the old one, but now I have all these new elements that it could mean. So depending on the crowd who I'm talking to, right, I have an idea of what they're talking with the context of the sentence.
Sure.
That they're not meaning happy, they're meaning
something else. Yeah.
Something else.
Well, I want to go back and talk about, make a comment on one thing, and then I have a question for you. Yeah. So the thing I want to talk about is you were saying that Stephen said these things to people like, I'm glad you're here and being kind to people. And to me, that's a really big spiritual practice. I think all of us need to kind of subscribe to sometimes, is that if we're all God, and that's what I believe everyone is God, everyone is an aspect, everyone is you're playing a character, right? We're all playing a role. but deep down, our souls are all made of the same stuff. And the same thing, I made the same thing. My soul's made the same thing that Jesus Christ or Buddha or Krishna or Muhammad or Allah, anybody else. And that's why he said you can do all the same thing as doing a greater thing.
Yep. I
And
use that
so,
all the time.
right. And when I'm reading, when I read the Bible, I especially love the words in red spoken by Christ. And I obviously I read them a lot and research for some of the other podcasts that we do. There's really specific instructions that Christ always says, talking about feeding people on time. Like I have a special needs person that lives with me, and just like reading that makes me think, don't cook her a meal early just because it's convenient for you. Cook it on time. Even she can't talk. She's not gonna, she can't tell me when she wants it necessarily, but I know when she wants it. I know when she wants to eat. I shouldn't cook it early to be convenient for me. Treat people the way not you want to be treated, the best way you can think of treat, because this is God. And Christ is saying that
Yes.
when the time comes at the end times, there's everything you've done is wide out there in the open. And so if you're someone who treats people poorly, if you're someone who lies and cheats and stuff, and you think you're getting away with it, when the end times, when this time comes, when this kind of purification happens, all those things that you did, how you treat people, according to Christ, is saying those who treated my people the best, you're going to be put up in a place to take care of my people because you took care of my people well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that, and I think about, there are times when I obviously get frustrated and it's tough to work with some special needs people, and it can be hard. And I say, do I get mad? Do I get angry? Or do I, always speak from my heart, always be kind, and always like try to understand where they're coming from, because I feel like it's because I'm by myself doesn't mean I'm alone. And there's people watching, and that's part of the karma, and like how you treat people, how you drive out there on the road, how you talk to yourself and how you talk to others is what's going to come back to you.
100%.
And if you bully yourself, and if you and that, how you treat yourself is obviously your 100%.
And that's one reason why they say you need to be number one in your own life.
Yeah.
So you've got
how you treat yourself is how you tell everyone else to treat you.
Exactly.
So when you're like beating yourself up
or you have an attitude,
yeah, then you're gonna get that back. So
you're gonna get that back to you.
I realize, how I drive and let people come on in, pull on in, and then right after that, sometimes I need to be let in, or if I pull over and get in front of somebody, then somebody does it to me almost instantaneous sometimes, within seconds, sometimes or minutes right after that, and I realize, got to watch myself, that's my cue. And I'm constantly watching the world and how the things that are happening to me are probably mostly because of how I'm being in the world. And that really, honestly, if you think about it, you're looking into a mirror, and the things that you say and the things that you do, it's just mirroring all that stuff back to you. If you want to be happy, be happy. You smile and the mirror smiles back, but you can't be like, I got to do all these things and everything else, and then I'm going to be happy. No, the mirror's not going to smile until you smile, and then it smiles.
Exactly.
So.
And that brings up to a thing. I guess it was a type of awakening too. It was in 2007. I was at a workshop, and the person leading the workshop says, everybody, I want you to go out, and go to the bathroom and go look in the mirror and look yourself straight in the eye and say, I love you. And so, there was over 500-600 people, maybe 1,000 people in the thing. So it took a while, so everybody was able to take a break and everything too. And he came back in and he started asking questions. How easy was it for you to say, I love you to yourself, looking yourself square in the eye? Could you look yourself square in the eye? And I'll say 95% of the people said it was almost impossible for them to look themselves square in the eye and say, I love you. Because there's always something within us that we think we should be better at, or we're ashamed of, and everything else. That's also part of the human experience, but that also blocks us, because we don't feel worthy enough to be awake. And just by what you're saying is how you treat the other people in your life. You have a choice every moment, right? I can be mad at this person and I can blow up, but I can also realize that I blew up and say, something, I've had a rough day and I took it out on you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But most people are afraid to do that because then it shows that they're weak. That's not weak. That's the most spiritual, strong energy that you can have.
But that sorry can instantly change the entire energy in the whole room. Because somebody's mad at you too, because you talk to them like that and their feelings are hurt. But when you sincerely say it, and you
Exactly.
really mean it,
When you mean it from your heart.
it just
Yes.
kind of just washes it all away and cleanses. It's almost
Well,
like
and
repenting. Like, I'm
yeah.
sorry. I'm truly am sorry for
Yeah,
those things.
and most times it does, but sometimes it doesn't. But that's also okay because that was also a triggering mechanism for them to start to realize that they're holding grudges,
Hmm.
that they're not able to forgive, they're not able to release. And that's one of the things, it's also a lesson for them. They might not get it, they might not awaken
Mhm.
to that right away, but the more it happens and the more they realize that how they're reacting to things is allowing them to be segregated from what were once friends. I mean, I see so many friendships end over stupid little arguments,
Yeah.
or differences. I mean, oh my God, in my own family, when some of the politics was going on, and one believed in this, and everybody else didn't. The one who believed this way ostracized the rest of the family for years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was like, to me, that is so silly. We have one lifetime. You know, you love the person, even if you disagree with them. That doesn't mean you stop loving them. That usually you can never stop loving. You cover it over with something else.
Hmm.
You bury it under anger or hate. But that love is always in the core. If you've loved somebody once, you always love somebody.
Yeah.
If you really love
If
them,
you love them, yeah.
not just like they felt good,
Yeah.
or something, but where you felt, if you can feel the loss of somebody in your life and you think of them and you wish it was different, that means you've loved that person,
Hmm.
right? On some level. Now, love isn't always a physical thing. It's a spiritual, it's an emotional thing. Um, but you can have all those things. And being awake is really about becoming more aware of how you're walking in this world.
Yes.
In the morning, you
Right.
wake up and you're grumpy and everything. Kick out of the bed. Most times it's because we're not grounded. Ground yourself. Do some grounding exercises. If you don't know what that is, go look it up. Other term is earthing and stuff like that. It's all grounding techniques. But make a choice in that morning. I've done it before when I was a cop. You know, I didn't get enough rest. I'm really, if I don't sleep well, I'm an asshole. I'm an asshole. My friends, my close friends and family have permission to say, John, go take a nap. Because usually it's because I'm too exhausted. I'm tired. I'm mentally shot.
That's all it takes a lot of times is just to take a second to
To
go back
reset.
to yourself and say, hey, look, I stubbed my toe. I'm going to have a bad day. No, 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 I'm not. I stubbed my toe then. The rest of the day is going to be great. And manifest that and create that.
Yeah. And
instead of saying,
exactly.
I'm going to have a bad day because this thing happened already. My morning's already started bad.
Yeah.
So.
In that instance, what I literally did was I caught myself and said, clear that. Whoa, no. Because I go, someone's going to mess with me. I'm going to fuck them up. That's what I said. Can I say this? Yeah. And the thing is I caught myself and I said, no, I have a choice here. And I said, I was driving in my car. I'm in uniform. I'm driving, to work. I wasn't in the patrol car or I worked in a jail mostly. But I literally said, no, I'm going to work. I'm going to be a comedian today. I am not going to write up anything. I'm going to treat everything with humor because I know that's complete opposite of what I was feeling. I choose to have a good day today. I choose to be funny. I choose to work in peace, light, love, compassion, truth, integrity, forgiveness, and thanksgiving. And I say that to myself every day. That's my goal. That's my goal of the day. Every morning I get up and I meditate and I say, Spirit, Lord, please allow me to work this day and every day of my existence in peace, light, love, compassion, truth, integrity, forgiveness, and thanksgiving. That's my daily goal, to do that.
Yeah.
And do I make it all the time? No.
Right.
Right.
So those are affirmations that you're saying.
Those are affirmations.
Right. And so what if somebody's watching this tonight or watching this somewhere down the road and some event has happened to them in their life, some sledgehammer blow from the universe has come and hit them.
Like car accident, the family or
lost
whatever.
The job, the relationships ended. To me, suffering was really the thing I think ultimately that brought forth the largest awakening in my life.
Well, it's usually the biggest key.
Yeah, I mean, I'm miserable, right? You're miserable in life, and I came to the conclusion I've basically created my own hell. And if I'm powerful enough to create my own hell, because, you know, I'm not like I'm living on the street or anything. I have an apartment and, you know, I'm living in Atlanta. I'm working as a bartender, but like, I'm not happy. I'm not, you know, like something is definitely missing in my life. And I'm having this huge awakening going on. And I'm like, I gotta get out of here. And my heart's saying, you got to go move to Colorado and you got to work with kids. And that's it. And
Yeah.
my brain's like, no one's going to hire you to work with any kids in Colorado. But I trusted my heart and I trusted that everything that I gave away at the time and moved to Colorado, I would get and get more. And I've certainly
You
got,
knew you would return. Yeah, well, that would come
yes,
back. Yes.
certainly got all of it and much, much more at this point. But if somebody's watching right now and they're hearing those affirmations, like, okay, that's something I can do. What are some other things you think that people could do to help with their awakening? Because I think once you've had that blow, once you've had this, you know, kind of blow from the universe says, okay, life isn't what I always thought it was. And now I'm willing to just to start from the bottom and learn everything over and relearn things.
Well, I think it's really important to ground. Is so important to ground, because what grounding does, it when I do readings, you know, I've got like these 15 decks of cards on the table, but I do mediumship, and when it comes in, I use the example of life can be very chaotic. There can be so much going on. When you have something that's overwhelming you, right, and you are completely overwhelmed and you can't make decisions, you can't do it, that means you're totally ungrounded at that point in time. Being grounded is one, taking a moment to breathe. Take a moment and do several breaths. You start to feel yourself centering more. You generally start to feel a little bit of sense of peace. Even through all that, you feel a little bit, but we tend to fight it, because when we lose somebody, we want to suffer in a way because we can't be with them. You know what I mean? There's a lot of psychological things going on in our mind, but the grounding can also take it down a notch, right? But when you start to breathe, you're bringing it down into another sense. And what grounding does, and I used an example of taking, is like you have these like 15 decks of playing cards, and they're all different colors, right? And they have different graphics on it, but they might have all the same numbers, right? And they're all lined up in their piles. And then you take all of them and you mix them together, and you got like 1,000 cards piled up here. And I say, I want you to pick 5 cards out of that blue deck with the dragons on it. You got 5 seconds, go. Well, you got 1,000 cards there. You're like, you're deer in headlights, you're frozen. And then you go, oh crap, I'm losing time. And you're tense and you jump into it, you know, so tense where you lose your fine motor skills. You're lucky, you won't even get 1 card in that 5 seconds. You're not even going to find one, because your mind's frenzied, meaning you're not grounded. You're everything. You're overwhelmed. What grounding does is takes this big pile and puts them into the individual piles, right? Where you, oh, there's the deck with the dragons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or most times you'll pick up 5. I show it to my clients all the time. I use the example. I mean, I don't put a big pile, but I when the decks are in the thing, I reach out and I pull out and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. More times than I pick up 6 or 7 or 4 or 3. Right. And you know, you can't tell, they're all stacked together.
Yeah. And that air is mental, right? So
yeah,
when we're in a fear state, we're breathing much more shallow. And when you take those deep breaths, you come to that here and now, and you relax and your brain works better.
Right.
And that's, you know, one of the things why tests aren't very good in school, because when you're stressed out over that test,
I was horrible.
Your brain is not making those connections to pull that stuff out of your mind. Even though you probably looked at it and you know the answer, but you're not catching it. You're not pulling it out.
Right. And that was me. That was me. Me
too.
Did you look up my records? No.
I just know, John.
Yeah, you just know me. But the thing is that's the first step. Now, after that, you sit there and like when that tragic situation is to go, what can I learn from this? Right? You're taking what positive can come from this, right? And it might be that all of a sudden you were called to action, that this should never have happened, right? And it might be through anger. Now, anger is an emotion that we all have. It's part of being human, right? But to use the anger as a constructive thing, not a destructive thing. Right? I said, I'm angry right now. This should never have happened. And you look at the legal ramifications of what went on, what should have been in place, that because this has happened to thousands of other people, and it could have been easily remedied if someone really looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you sit there, and all of a sudden you find some other people who had the same thing. You found there was a group out there, and all of a sudden you're starting to think, and all of a sudden you write up this paperwork and you bring it to the Senate or the Congress or whatever it is, and the lawmakers, and you get this thing instituted in because it was well thought out.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, that horrible thing that went on now has a positive effect to not only the person who did it because they're accomplishing something, but the people who got involved with it and the people who don't even think about it have now been saved by this horrendous thing that may have gone on through you. It's basically looking for the silver lining in that thundercloud.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Everything, one of the things, everything happens for a reason. And that reason is there to serve me, right?
That
Me, the
everything's
spirit,
happening for you to wake up,
Yes.
not happening to you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, a lot of times what we do is we all do it and we go into victim energy.
Yes, I think
And-
that victimization is real heavy right now, and I feel like everybody want to claim to be a victim for some reason, somewhat.
Well,
I think
yeah.
that's really detrimental to your spiritual growth.
It's detrimental to spiritual growth and societal too.
That you're here by
It
accident. and
creates
you've
those
been-
gaps that we talked
Yeah,
about earlier.
Yeah, you're here by accident, and things aren't, have never been easy for you, and that's fine. You grow and you learn and you move on, and that's. But to be a victim, man, that's a bad.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not a great place to be, and just realize everything is happening for me to
And-
wake up and to do the best that I
Yeah,
can.
and I'm
do the
looking in
best I
here,
can.
and what I have on the screen here is from Chris. Yes, education is the key. Breathing is the next level above love. It's called freedom. Hello, love and light, beautiful family from PA. Okay, breathing mixed with the blood, love and freedom. The breath is so important. That's why they call breath is
Oxygenate
life.
those blood cells. Yes, sir.
When we're shallow breathing, we don't have generally our brain cells are not being oxygenated as much, right? So we'll have slower mental faculties when we don't breathe correctly. And using breathing techniques, that's what they do in yoga. They do it in a lot of different things.
Right.
Is extremely important.
And that's a good one too. Yoga is a great practice.
Yeah.
In order to help yourself wake up. One of the things in yoga that I first realized was that grudges and things you were talking about earlier, holding these things against people, that they did something to you, and so you're angry about it, and I would hold on to that. And I found out in yoga, I did a back bend, one of my first classes, and I did the back bend and turned around and had this euphoric release of what seemed to be grudges that I had held inside my body, and had this kind of pain, physical pain in my back from it, that I was literally released from. And I was like, oh, wow, if I hold on to grudges, I'm going to have, from angry at somebody, I'm not just have this energetic connection to them, but I'm also holding on to this thing that's hurting me.
Right.
Physically.
And there's a technique out there called the emotion code, if you've ever heard of it.
Yeah.
And then the secondary part of that is the body code. But that talks about those type of things, the emotions that are trapped within the body from different experiences and sometimes passed on like a legacy from generation to generation. And, they have different techniques where you can help release that without having to be re-traumatized. Like a lot of times people go to therapies and they bring up the past, they bring up the experience, and the person's re-traumatized. Do you have to go through that? I mean, because that's stunting their awakening process.
To bring it up?
To bring it up in the manner that where they're reliving it.
I mean, I feel like that sometimes is good because if you're not aware of certain things,
I didn't say always.
Oh, okay.
I didn't say always.
All right.
Right. It depends on the individual, and you can usually get that with the type of conversation. There's ways to circumvent having them dead on face it like this. Sometimes it has to come in little tidbits where they're able to process. Otherwise, they get overwhelmed. All right. It's again, if they get grounded and they breathe, they might be able to handle that process. But do they teach that when you're, going into counseling? Not many. More are doing that stuff. More across, because I know my ex-wife is an LPC. I have friends that are LPCs actually, who come become my clients too. And, we talk. And, I share what I do the way I do it so they can share it with them, their patients and stuff like that too. And it all comes down to, knowledge is not sacred. Knowledge should be shared. Right. Now, what popped into my mind about 10 minutes ago was that a lot of times what happens is, like if you're, say, an ultra Christian is what I call them, where this is this, and it's so locked in, and this is the word, and you can't do anything else. Yoga is the work of the devil. Meditation is the work of the devil. I've had people who come eventually to meditations that I've led, who that's the way they were raised and everything, and they were so uncomfortable in there. I said, just relax, just breathe, And I said, if this doesn't resonate with you, then don't come back. It's okay. It's okay. But there's more out there. It's not about control. It's about learning and understanding the dynamics of the energy that we have, the interactions that we have. You know when something's wrong, don't you?
Yeah.
When something's off.
The funny thing you say that, though, just goes so you guys know, in the book of Psalms, the word meditation is used dozens of times. And in Matthew, it literally says, those who sat in darkness saw great light. So if you're sitting in darkness, I don't know what else you would be doing, but besides meditating, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it is clear in there,
It is. And I think it's because of how whoever their pastor or teacher was used it as a negative, and that got passed on. And it's, again, with the language and our wording and stuff like that, and what we infer, what that word means, that twists it from its original meaning into something that could be bad.
Right.
And so that gets passed on because, this person's learning, and that you look up to this person. I look up to this guy right up behind me here. Where is he? Over there. Right there. Right. Sasquatch. Yeah. And we can get into him too in a little while. But the thing is that, everything, if we follow the energetic field that we feel in our heart and our gut, there are neurons in both of those. I'm sliding away again.
Yeah,
I'm rolling.
Yeah.
Rolling.
Yeah.
You've talked to this, I think, on one of your shows too. It's up to 11 seconds that, that they've found, and they believe it's further, that we sense things, we'll say, in the future through the heart and the gut, because it works on an energetic field, which is a quantum field, where our brain, works, when we think, it's working off of this, the touch, it's the senses, and it's putting in the data. And most of the data we get from school is what? It's in books. It's from someone talking. So it's coming in through the senses, right? Where this works off on the energetic field, the quantum field, right? Of all that was, is, and shall be.
Right.
Right. They literally did a test in the early 1960s, which was actually done again about 3 or 4 years ago with using modern equipment as opposed to flashcards and stuff like that. And unbeknownst to the new people, they didn't know that this study was already done, is where they did a baseline. They hooked up the wires on the brain to get the, the oscilloscope out, or whatever it is, the ECG, EKG, or all those stuff. They were all hooked up, wired.
Right.
And they literally, they did a baseline. They showed them certain things. So they had a baseline of reaction. And when back in the 1960s, all of a sudden a person handed them a card. But before they handed them the card, they were getting waves going off before it was flatlined. And all of a sudden a wave started going. Right. And when they turned the card over and the eye saw it, all of a sudden the top wave matched.
Right.
Right. And in the modern one, they did it with a computer screen. It was black. All of a sudden, it's black. The participants were getting the wave going, and it could have been jagged, right, going across. What happened? Soon as the picture came up, it showed victims of the tsunami being washed up on the thing. Something terrible, right? They might have had 2 or 3 of those pictures going off every so often. It would go blank again, and it over and over and over again. The heart on the nice pictures, the field and the butterflies with nice flowing, sine wave, and then all of a sudden it would change. And the next picture that popped up was, someone getting blown up by a bomb or something like that. So when we follow our heart and not allowing our brain to override it, saying that's not logical.
Yes.
Right. You will be in the awakening process will come at a much faster rate. That's why staying in a job that you hate only because it's money and it's safe is
Oh,
detrimental.
yes, 100%.
We're here to experience life, the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent. It is so important to have those things
Yes, absolutely.
because you become a more rounded human being, spiritual being. You become much more compassionate because, everybody has gone through suffering. Everybody has, even the
Right.
most insulated person.
Right. And that's why a seed has to be buried down in the darkness in order to have that darkness for it to bloom. And then the roots stay where? They stay under the ground, in the
Right.
ground. Your roots and your foundation are underground in the
Well,
dark.
the native peoples, the void, the dream time, the void,
Mhm.
it's like black. It's first, the void is black. There's no light. There's nothing. It's the void. And a lot of people are afraid of the dark. But the void, like in the Bible, what did it say when creation started?
Well, in the beginning was the Word.
And then
The Word was God, yeah.
and the word was God. And then what about the light?
Oh, created the light and the light was good.
Right? Created light,
Mhm.
right? But without light, it's dark.
Yeah.
Right? Now, a lot of the native belief system was the darkness, the void, is where all the ingredients of life, of existence, was stored. Think of it as the closet of creation.
Mhm.
So when you bring light inside the closet, you're able to grab out the tools.
Right. And so it's kind of what you're talking about earlier is school and this being in school and learning and everything growing. And so when I was in public school from kindergarten to 12th grade and then going to college, I felt like I learned very little, and I felt like I was saying to you earlier when I got out of school in 2007, after my awakening really took off because I no longer had to go to school. I had a lot of free time. So I had a lot of time to read books and to scour the internet and try to find things. But I would say in that time from 2007 to now, I have learned an astronomical amount more about myself, about the world, than it's only a tiny fraction of anything that I even learned in school that's even worth anything. So, and I attribute a lot of that to when the student is ready, the teacher
master will
and
appear.
the teacher,
Yeah.
the master will appear. And
Mhm.
what do you feel about that? Because I feel like when I was humbling myself and in 2007, I was like, I just looked out to the universe and I was like, you know what? All I know is I came to this school, I spent a lot of money. I don't feel like I'm any more worthy to get any job and make any kind of amount of money than when I got here. I
Mhm.
barely know how to do a resume. And, with a psychology degree, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I just kind of looked out to the universe and just said this as much as I'm saying, talking to you right now. I don't know what the truth is. I don't know what learning is. I don't know what anything is. I don't know anything. But I was like, if God exists, if there's some higher power out there, please really, reveal yourself to me in the most just noticing way so that I will see it and know it and have no doubts. And if Christianity is it or Buddhism or if atheism is right, just show me. And at that moment, that's when the breadcrumbs came for me. I had these epiphanies and revelations and aha moments, and the breadcrumbs would come and read this book and check this out and these really spiritual events. And then people and situations and places to go. And it just like took off from there.
Yeah, I think a lot of times those experiences come is when you really stopped looking, you started experiencing.
Right. Yeah.
All right. And that's one of the things I recommend for people is to start experiencing instead of looking like I'm searching, I'm searching for God, I'm searching. It's like, no, just be,
Mhm.
right? Experience. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, right? Forgive, be forgiven. Ask for forgiveness. We all done messed up things. We've all done them. I don't think there's very few people out there, and I know there are some that are, really, but they walk the lines. They're so afraid to live. They don't want to offend anybody, so they're not really living. They're kind of walking on the top of the fence.
Mhm.
They're not jumping to either side or falling to either side. Is to experience, and if you make mistakes, mistakes are where we learn our greatest things. We don't like to make and we don't like to acknowledge them. I'll raise my hand there too. But the thing is that sometimes they happen no matter what.
Mhm. That humility is great.
Yeah.
When
And
someone can challenge you with something like you were talking about earlier, and you be challenged with something you can learn a lot when you humble yourself enough. Like, I don't know it all. So when someone challenges me to something, say, hey, that's a good point. I could see how that's right. I can see how that makes sense.
Yeah. And I know I can get very stubborn when I'm feeling I'm right in a sense, you know what I mean? But then I'm sitting there, but at the same time, a lot of times I catch myself in my mind and I start to laugh and I said, wow, I'm being what I'm professing not wanting to be. But that's part of the human experience. It's about letting us grow. Any questions on there or something?
I'm just looking, I'm
it's all
trying to
right.
find a couple more for you.
Yeah. You know, again, we are here to experience life and to do it. Just
Yes.
be it. Not to play it, 100% safe.
Yeah.
No one wants to get hurt.
Mm-hmm. It's funny thing you said earlier.
But if it's going to
we're
happen,
searching for God, and like God's literally the one who's searching. And it's like, how can you can't find anything
right
if you don't realize that. So you're the kingdom of heaven's within us, you know, and it's like,
well, can you search for air?
I mean,
it's a simple
hard.
Example.
It's hard.
You can't. We know it's there because we were told it was there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We were given a definition of what air is.
Mm-hmm.
We're given a definition of what God is. We're given a definition of these things.
Right.
But there's a force in the universe, whatever you want to call it, that came together, whatever it was, that allowed this to appear, to create, to us to exist in this framework. And I believe in the soul, the spirit, right? That it's timeless.
Mm-hmm.
Like that I've had many lifetimes. I've been regressed. I've meditated and seen different things, and some of it was able to be verified.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that I've gone through, but that just shows that we are of something greater than this.
Yes, I 100% believe in the reincarnation. I've had many experiences and past life regressions and visions and things that just led me to 100%. I didn't believe it, to know that we live over and over again. We're born over and over again to experience just too much to learn in one life. And it helps to play different roles, to play different skin tones, to play different genders. It helps all of that. And I feel like for me, I definitely was a female for a long time there. And probably the last, more recent reincarnations have been male, because that's what I need to learn here now. I probably got pretty good at being that female and learning those things. And it's like, all right, man, we got to balance you out. You got to be male. And so to learn that, and I feel like in this life, it made sense when I was a young kid, going to family reunions and wanting to sit with the women and listen to them talk. And then I would make myself go over there and listen and sit with the men. And I would do both, and I would listen as long as I could for both of them. But I always felt more comfortable and wanted to go back to the women. And I always thought that was weird, because, other brothers and cousins, they're, kind of tough guys. And I wasn't that kind of guy. And like I said, I just felt more comfortable with the women, and I always wondered what that was. And as I go on my life, I realized I've always been more comfortable in those situations. It hasn't been probably in the most recent years of my life where becoming a father and, really diving into this masculinity that's in this body for me. And I think that's a really important and really good teacher for me to learn. And it's been very helpful to dive into that and to be that, because I didn't feel like I had it as I was younger, but now it's like, man, there's a lot of power in that. And I feel like, but it's also too, I do have a lot of feminine qualities and characteristics as well. And I feel like in my job, especially, it's always great to,
because you're compassionate,
be kind and compassionate and loving. And then, I can be authoritarian, but I mean, people say, I heard that term, the toxic masculine. I don't think there is a toxic masculine. I think the absence of masculinity is toxic. So then, then you're controlling and you're angry, but that's, the masculine is loving and protective and providing
and want to keep, and secure your family. And
and now that I have a family and children, I'm like,
there's a whole bunch of videos talking about this on all types of platforms right now. Exactly. I watch them. I watch a lot of different shorts and stuff like that. That, again, it comes down to the words and the definitions of things that have changed over the years, that change meaning and or take meaning away from something, and taking the power away of something. And it's about how do we communicate? If someone doesn't understand, do you ever say, can you say that another way? I might be taking this wrong.
Yes.
We don't do that.
Yeah.
How often do we do that?
In my field, it actually happens a lot.
Well,
People
because
think,
your field.
yes,
Yes,
does
because
that
you're
make
in a
sense to
special
you?
environment. You're in a
You
different
just said it.
environment, but I mean, that's the exception.
Yeah.
Now, but start teaching that rule to the people you meet.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Start passing it on. That's one of our that go. We're all teachers, all of us.
Teachers and students.
And yeah, well, yeah, you can only become a teacher by being a student.
A good student, yeah. I
So,
feel like when I was doing it,
but it's
2007, I
not
was
about
looking for myself,
grades.
yeah.
It's about experience. It's
Experience.
about how you're bringing that into your body. You know, when we go into relationships, and this is also an awakening topic. Do you know the full background of your mate, right? Your significant other? Do you know what they went through, right? Have you discussed it? How have you, do I have those traits of these people that you have felt abused by or hurt by? And if I do have that trait, is it just a movement or a tone of voice, but not the action? Is breaking it down, because I've had so many clients, but also in my own experience, because I have the negative trait of, especially when I'm tired, of using a challenging tone when I'm talking to people, when I don't even realize it. It's completely subconscious. That means I'm tired. And then people get, upset, and they get, man, he's pissed at me or whatever. And I'm not. And I'm thinking I'm talking gently, and I'm not. And they, they're getting upset and everything else. And then, realized, well, I catch myself a lot of times when I start hearing it, I'm trying to be more sensitive. Wow. You know something? The way I said it wasn't what I was meaning. This is what I meant. And I'm going to go take a nap, because it's going to come out the wrong way, and that's about becoming self-conscious of those particular things. But we need to understand the people in our lives, what they've gone through. But it's to have good conversations with them and to understand where you're coming from. Because I literally had some circumstances with clients where they like to bust each other's chops. They like to make fun of each other, and it's normal and it's fun to them, or like, oh man, they got me good today, that type of thing. But when you accept somebody new into the group and you start busting their chops, they got offended, they got hurt, they got mad, they got angry, they thought they were being pushed out, when they were actually being welcomed with open arms, because we love you.
Right.
But they ran away because in their life experience, those stuff were the stuffs of attack and degradation. Right. And it's like, wow, I didn't know that. So then you sit there and say, when you start educating them on what your intention was, if they'll listen, sometimes they get so hurt that they shut completely down. It's, if you can get somebody to talk to them and saying, no, you were actually welcomed into that group. They loved who you are.
Yeah.
It's just that you don't understand their language on how they express that. It's like my friends, we're growing up. Oh my God. If people thought we were so abusive to each other. We didn't feel it at all. We thought it was funny. We cracked up. It's like, oh man, I got my butt chewed off with that one there. Oh, I use other words.
But a lot of the ways that people are reacting to that stuff, and you were saying this earlier, is how we are as kids, how we were treated as kids, how our parents interacting with us, how they showed us love or didn't show us love, how they talked to us when, or didn't talk to us when things got bad. And people don't realize, when we were talking about earlier, going back to those times and really trying to find out, and sometimes even asking your mom or your dad, how was I as a kid? What kind of things that I did, things you might not remember when you're 2, 3, or 4, or 5.
Yeah.
And how things work. Because there's parts of your brain that does, the time is non-relevant. So it's like someone hurts you when you're 3 years old, and so now you constantly,
the trigger hits you.
Exactly. And so someone make fun of me, and then or whatever else it is, someone, I got control taken from me, and I felt all alone or whatever, and so now I'm a controlling person because of that. Those things happen, and people don't even realize that they come from childhood. And it's good to revisit that, whether that's with parents, on your own, in your own meditations, asking yourself how, asking the universe, hey, how can you help me with these things that I'm dealing with, and things that I'm not even aware of? Help me be aware. And I think when we speak to God, the universe, like that, those answers can't come to you, but you have to get real.
Right. And one of the tools that I use, when I do my work, and for myself, Especially I was going through a rough divorce years ago, and I didn't understand why certain things went on. So I sat in meditation and I prayed and I asked, God, Spirit to show me, right? But without having any emotional attachment to it. So I said, like a third party observer, please show me the dynamics of what I did in my own life and the sensitivities that created the triggers,
Right.
and what went on in her life. And they showed me mine, and they showed like the family tree, and this person did this to this, and you know what I mean. I saw this whole dynamic come down on my side, and then they show me hers. And instead of being angry with what was going on, because I chose to be in the higher path, that what I looked at, what really mattered and what didn't matter. It was not about fight. It was like, it didn't need to be. It was about what was right and wrong. What was positive, what was not what positive, that could have negative implications. But when I saw what went on in her life, which she didn't talk about, I knew a little of it. And then, I was able to talk a few years later more about it to her. I mean, during that whole process of the divorce, I had more compassion. I didn't have anger. I had compassion. And this was this little kid, the hurt. This was protecting herself and trying to keep the bubble around her own life that was causing, but being using anger as the outlet. And it didn't trigger me. No matter how bad it got and the threats and everything, I literally sat there and I said, I would just go, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sending you love and light, and I hope, that you can find the peace,
Right.
and I wouldn't go into that energy. And it was a conscious choice. I could have been triggered. I chose not to be triggered because I understood the dynamics of it. And that's about what you're saying, is that sometimes you have to pray, you have to go look within. And I looked at the things and how I looked cavalier in certain situations because it didn't matter to me. It was not a big thing, but because of what she went through, this was a huge thing.
Right.
And it created a rift because, I didn't have that kind of experience in my life. I grew up with a pretty stable life. I mean, I'm one of the lucky ones. I had good parents and everything. I mean, there were some things that I got scarred from in there, but it was because of unconscious, not because it was through anger or anything else.
Right.
It was because distractions.
Right.
And your example was perfect. That's part of the enlightenment process. It's using everything that we've experienced, or the awakening process, I should say, that can bring enlightenment. And everybody has sparks of enlightenment within them right this moment.
Yeah.
And they've seen it. People have seen it in them before. They don't. We might not have an easy way to acknowledge it within ourselves, though, because then it puts a spotlight on us, and a lot of us don't want to be in the spotlight in that way.
Yes.
Or put up on a pedestal. When I taught a meditation class, I've learned a lot. I've meditated a lot. I've asked questions. I've listened. I've been wrong a million billion times. But being wrong is not a bad thing until someone educates you and you find more information and you're able to shift your perception. That's awakening.
Right.
Not staying in the box. And we all have the potential. None of us, when we come down into these bodies, and even when we're in them, are no greater or lesser than another being. We're all having our experience, and each one of us that we interact with is our teacher.
Yes, our soul families, especially our friends, and even our enemies. And I've realized that someone who can be, an enemy, when you learn to kind of be humble and talk to them and see, where is it that we have discord, so I don't have to feel like this anymore. There's a lot of freedom that comes from that. And oftentimes the thing that you are upset with, or the thing that makes you angry about them, is something that's going on in your life that you're kind of judging or angry about, and you're projecting it on someone else. And if you could only just let it go, see them, and kind of release that by forgiving them, then it kind of helps you forgive yourself. You become a whole lot easier to live life that way. And another thing you were saying earlier is this, all these people that we reincarnate with, our soul families and our friends, and these people we reincarnate with over and over again. Oftentimes, those traumatic events that happen, for me, I was telling you, when I was like 6.5 years old, a couple of days after Christmas, we leave Miami to go back to Georgia, and we were in a bad car accident, and I was severely hurt more than anyone else. But everyone else,
Was this when you were pretty much
when I was
paralyzed?
yeah, and my brother wasn't hurt. He fell in the back of a suitcase, and he's fine, but he still took certain things from that. There was a bit probably of jealousy, not to be mean to him or anything if you ever watched this, but I think because I'm hurt and I get a lot of attention and I'm in the hospital for a long time, then I go back to my grandmother's house and I'm on the couch and I don't have to go to school for a couple months, and all these things. And but I can't even get up. I have to piss in a cup and I have to eventually learn how to walk and talk again and go back to school in a wheelchair after a while. But he's jealous, and my dad probably has guilt, and my mom, everybody takes something different, and I have anger because why did this thing have to happen to me? And I was a little kid, and I have scars on my face or whatever. But those things, they all play beautiful, perfect roles that we have kind of built up over time, and then eventually they become kind of those sledgehammer blows that happen to us in life that help you wake up. And you need to take something big, pay attention to those events. And if you've lost your joy, you've lost something back, it's usually back in your childhood. You have to go back and find it. When did someone take away that innocence? When did someone take away your freedom? When did you give it away? Yeah, that's a big one too. A lot of times we give it away to someone else to be cool
or they seem to be the authority figure.
Sure.
So we give our power away because they know better or they know more.
They're older than me and they're bigger than me.
Yeah, exactly.
So they know more than me, but no one knows more than you about your own life. So this is an incredible topic. I feel like we could probably go on and on and on, but I'm sure at this point we're well over the hour.
Oh wow! Well, I was getting that hit, and you just did that. But I could. I mean,
you could,
definitely. And give us 5 minutes, and does anybody have a question for either one of us who are on this particular one too?
Yeah, and
because I was looking at Chris's stuff on here just a few minutes ago, and I don't know if I can bring it down.
Not a touch screen, but it scrolled through. But we will definitely go back on those on Ascension Works TV. So if you are watching this live on YouTube right now, we will be doing AscensionWorks.tv. And
is this the YouTube
a full discussion?
One here?
This is Zoom. So
we'll
close it out. Yeah. If there's do you have anything else feel like at least kind of bubbling up in your heart that you feel like is really important for anybody, maybe who's watching right now, who's waking up, who's things are happening? Because we kind of made it all sound great, but at the same time, awakening is
work.
It's work. It's a little bit scary. It's facing sometimes the darkest things that
Yes, it is. It's 100% that. Awakening is a process, and most times you're not going to even realize you're awakening. It's just through conversation. You go, where the hell did that come from?
Right.
Or whoa, wow.
It's scary.
And I
that ego's getting dissolved.
Well, it does. The thing is, part of what is true, right? What is truth, right? We have truth, right? But then you get more information and you get another perspective, right? That truth changes from what you knew as truth, now has other elements to it. So that truth grows differently. It changes. It moves on angles. Right? It goes in other directions sometimes. So, and the only way real truth can occur is by listening to everybody and all points of view of that object. The microphone that's sitting right in front of us, those who are viewing the screen see some things. They see some knobs and stuff like that. Right now, this represents the truth. Now, if I turn this microwave, I hope it doesn't mess it up.
Yeah, you won't go here.
And we go right like this. Right now, the knobs are in different locations. Your truth now, your angle of truth is different, but it's still the same microphone. It's still the same core of truth, but our perspective from our point of view, which is through our life experiences and the things and our education and all those different things, twist and warp our truth. And by listening to, say, the questions and the comments that are all on this, having the conversations, whether you agree with it or not, the Native people had the talking stick. Let the person talk. Don't just interject and fight with them. Let them speak and listen to it. And don't let the mental part of you say, no. Just say, all right, I don't agree with that right now. let me absorb it. Let me take it in. Let me do some investigation on this. Let me feel it. You know, it's like when you eat food, if you just wolf it down, you don't let it really touch the tongue, you don't get the taste of it.
Mm-hmm.
You're just filling the stomach because you're hungry.
Right.
Right. But if you take it slow, you can taste the spices in it and viewpoints of the spices in our food.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to take our time to digest it, to taste it, to let it pass through us. And that's by observing, changing, you know, our viewpoint around the microphone. And that's part of the awakening process,
Mm-hmm.
is giving time to hear and to listen and to, you know, to use not just the spiritual senses, but also the physical senses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me, you know, people have things they're good at, playing instruments, playing music.
And that only occurred a little over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Just
For me, I feel like it's information. If I have a gift, it is, I've been able to humble myself and completely empty my bowl enough to know that I'm like a beggar of spirit. I'm a beggar of knowledge. You know what I mean? It's when our bowls are full, when I know that this is the only way, or that's the only way, or this is the only truth, or this is the only thing I'm willing to look at, and my bowl is full. It's like God can't put anything in that bowl for you, you know. But when I empty it out and say, I don't know anything, you know, please enlighten me, please fill me up with things that are exciting and things that make sense. And it's like all of a sudden, bam, that's when my bowl is empty and I'm asking, that's when I get these downloads and these things come through and it makes sense. And I'm like, wow, you know, and I feel like that's something that I'm good at, you know, and anybody can be good at it. I think a lot of people can be good at music, and you just have to really want it and try. And that's what I do. I practice
just
it.
be.
Just be.
See, I don't practice. You know, that to me, that's a 4-letter word. All right. I play.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
All right. Because if I don't find it enjoyable, I generally don't want anything to do with it. You know what I mean? I'll watch it, I'll look at it, I'll learn from it, but that's not something that resonates with me. I like when I learned my instruments, I didn't consider what I was doing practicing.
Right.
I was working to play at it sometimes. You know what I mean? But when I learned how to play the didgeridoo, I was making fart noises at first. I was laughing. Yeah. I was just, you know, tears running down my face because I was so
and you're playing.
I was playing. I was playing with it. Then all of a sudden, I got a nice sound come out of it. Then I was able to make these weird noises and barks and all those, you know, vocals, where they call it. And you know, and when I play and I hear a rhythm and I start, you know, I'm going on the thing. I'm having a fun time.
Right.
You know, I play my flute. If I have to play a set piece a certain way and stuff like that, I can do it a couple times. But then I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore because my soul is following a roadmap, and my soul wants to be free. It wants to freestyle.
I feel that with information, like,
yes,
I'm playing with the inner earth civilizations. It doesn't have to be real for me.
Right.
But if I can take that and listen to it for all that it's worth, and then can I play with it? Can I put it together with some other things? Does it go? Does it work? Does it fit like a puzzle? And as if, you know, and it's fun. It's like, wow, then all of a sudden I feel enlightened, like, oh, that does really feel well together, those things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That those things could be,
you know, off there we were talking and, you know, about all these different subjects. When we were talking on the phone earlier tonight, that, you know, oh God, what was it? One of the questions that you had asked me. Well, I was saying that if you can think it, it can be, you know, it's a reality, right?
Because if you can think it, that means somebody already else right out there.
Well, you know, you're talking about, you know, what Thomas Edison or Alexander Graham Bell, the one, the telephone. The patent was almost simultaneously put on you know, in Russia and here.
I think it was a guy in Africa, but
it was Africa or here, whatever, in another country.
Yeah,
we'll just say that in another country,
like on the same day,
on the same day, within hours of each other, and it was almost identical.
And they thought they'd stole the other one, but the other one,
right? But there was no computers, there was no internet, there's no phone system, obviously, right? They might have had telegraph, but that's such a slow way of communication, right? But that right there, you know, it came from the ethers.
It's in the field, man.
Right? It's in the field. Now, you know, creation, you know, this world, well, there are other societies before ours, right? There's ones that could have been so far more advanced than us.
Yes.
right? So anything that you can think of that you dream of was probably already in the field at one point in time and still floating around, right? And you happen to tap it. I mean, I literally, when I was 12 years old, you know that thing, the floss thing that has it's like U-shaped and has a piece of dental floss and then it has the toothpick on the end. Well, I drew that in a sketchbook when I was 12 years old. I didn't know what to do with it. I just, because my mom was like, always having a thing. And I drew this little design. It just sat in my sketchbook. Then 10 years later, my mom's like, pulls out this thing. I said, "Oh, Mom, I invented that." And then she goes, "Yeah, right." She's laughing. She goes, she's looking on there. "I don't see your name on the patent," that type of thing. And I go, let me come back, Mom. Where's my sketchbooks? Do you know where you put them? Because I was older then. And she pulls it out and I go through the pages and I point and I showed it to her. She goes, "Oh my God." It came into my field, but I didn't know what to do.
That's why I don't think patents really should exist, because these are all ideas that we borrow from the universe, and it's all about money.
It's all about money.
And with that being said,
well,
let's move on.
I don't know if we answered any questions.
No, we'll answer some questions after this, but let's go ahead and close it out, and then we'll end and we'll do the questions thing. But for right now, I just want to say thank you guys all for watching, being here live on YouTube and AscensionWorks.tv. We're really thankful. I'm really grateful for John, beautiful man, and I enjoy every minute of tonight. So thank you very much. And I just want to say to all you guys out there, awakening can be difficult, but at the end of the day, it is a beautiful thing. The mountains are more prestigious and great because of all the erosion and the wind and the water that comes. It makes them more profound. And that's our lives, man. Whatever happens to you, use that to make your life more beautiful and tell a great story, because at the end of the day, we're all storytellers. And how lame the story would be if you don't have challenges and things happen and, sledgehammer blows the universe. It makes the hero great to have that great enemy. Or it doesn't have to be an enemy, adversary, whatever you want to call it, but it makes us that much better to grow from these things that have happened. So I want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight, going through your awakening, and being the kind of person that you want to see in the world, because it really does matter how we interact, how we talk to each other, how we love. Every single one of us has an effect on the field and on this planet. And if we can just do that and just know that your interaction with the people at work, your people at school, your family, letting go of the hate, the anger, the grudges, and just be in peace with them and love, it will snowball effect. It will permeate throughout our world and change it to the way we really want it to not be divided, to not be divisive, but to see all as one, humanity as one, in one world. So I want to thank you guys all tonight for being here and tell you from the bottom of my heart, the divine in me sees and recognizes the divine in each and every single one of you. Namaste.
Can I say one thing?
Sure, that's where it's going to be cut off, but sure.
I just wanted to
that's what
my contact.
I mean, you can say, go ahead. Yeah. Go
ahead. For those who want to contact me or have any questions outside of the format, my website is theinnerlightweb.com. I have the Inner Light Center in Colorado Springs, and I'd be happy to answer questions from you. And I want to thank Chris and Ken, Clinda and Gregory was that Facebook?
No, they're on Zoom with us right now on AscensionWorks TV.
And who else is on there? Morgan,
Steven
still there. Yeah. So I want to thank you all for being on. I've been trying to look at the different things, scrolling.
It's hard to talk and look at the same time.
Yeah, it is, especially when I got old glasses. I sat on my other ones.
No worries.
So thank you all.
What we do want to do right now is we are still speaking to all the people on YouTube Live as well. So we just want to throw a promo out there to AscensionWorksTV.com.
Yes.
We will be ending YouTube Live here in just a minute. And when we do, the conversation isn't in there. It will be on AscensionWorksTV.com. We will be opening up the panel to everybody to talk, to share about their awakening, to ask questions and all that kind of stuff. So if you're really interested in that, it's a great platform. Jump on there. It's a small fee, but I think it's worth it. And where we put our attention and where we put our money right now is super important. And platforms like that, people like that, places like that, that's where we need to put our attention on, not, big, huge corporations that are taking over the planet. Put it on these grassroots movements that are speaking truth and trying to help the world become one. So if you guys want to meet us there, would absolutely love it and enjoy it and be grateful for every single one of you.
And Cody.
Oh, Cody's there too. Yeah. So we're going to stop the live stream on YouTube. Thank you guys all for
Thank you.
joining us. It's been
Yes.
beautiful. Love you all.